So waiting for episode 3 was like watching paint dry. It was the longest wait ever, but I'm glad it was worth it. And with that episode 3, now you see it, it turns up the supernatural tension a couple of notches. It gives us some original material. It gives us a crazy little graveyard seance. And, it gives us this flashback to 1908. It gives us this flashback to 1908 that introduces us to a young General Shaw. And by introducing a young General Shaw, it basically gives us his motivation for wanting to find Pennywise in the current 1962 timeline. So General Shaw, or Francis, because that's what the young version of him is called, he's at the carnival and, is one of those oddity carnivals from the way it looks. And he's there, he gets coerced into going into this big tent with the what are usually probably the 7 wonders of the world. So he sees the 2 girls, the twins that are attached by their stomach. He sees the one-eyed man that scares the shit out of him. And he basically ends up lost. And further into the 1908 flashback, it shows him and another character, Rose. He runs into the woods, just playing like kids play. He runs off into the woods and, she tries to stop him before he gets to the woods, and he runs into Pennywise, because that's clearly Pennywise that he ran into in the woods. So Pennywise scares the shit out of him, and he is hauling ass back to anywhere that's not that forest. But he eventually gets out of the forest and he meets back up with Rose. And, he's asking all these questions about what is that? Who is that? What is that thing? Are you afraid of it? How long have you known about it? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that basically gives us his motivation for why he is looking for Pennywise now again in 1962. Although he does mention later on in the episode that he does not remember anything about Derry, just in certain bits and pieces from 1908, because I guess when he left, Rose kind of alluded to, people just have a way of just forgetting what happens in Derry. And speaking of General Shaw and things that happen in Derry, this basically takes us to where he puts Dick and Halen and the captain guy. He put him on a helicopter and basically tells him to go fly over Derry, and that's going to be the way that he's going to find it. By flying over Derry and using that psychic shine ability. And sure enough, he does find it. And when he does, he goes into this trippy flashback scene. And all before this, while he's touching the slingshot and, directing everybody, it was funny because the pilots were tripping out. Hanlon was kind of trying to handle it like, real calm, but his partner was definitely tripping out. But all be all, he being Dick goes into this hallucination where he goes into the underground of Derry, and he is there at Pennywise Circus. And while at Pennywise Circus underground, he sees what we've seen in the new It movies. We see the people floating, and one of them reaches down to him and basically tells him he needs to get the hell up out of there. And then before he gets out of there, though, he has a verbal and sort of physical confrontation, not like physical confrontation. Pennywise basically asks him, like, who are you? Who are you? Like, how the fuck did you find me? Like, who are you? That's basically what he asked Dick, like, who are you? And further in this episode, Dick, in my opinion, probably scared for one of the first times in his life. He tells General Shaw that, he asked me, who am I? And in asking me, who am I, that means he can see us. And he's not supposed to see us. And why is he not supposed to see us? I don't even know the answer to that question, and I'm waiting to get that answer, but he's not supposed to see us. And if he can see us, and if we keep going down this path that we're going down, something bad is going to happen. And of course, General Shaw just blows that shit off like, oh, yeah, whatever. If something bad happens, it happens. But as long as we can get it, we're good. And that basically takes us to the 1962 Derry kids. They're going to try and prove that Ronnie's dad is innocent, but by trying to find a way to take a picture of Pennywise. So they the girls hatched this plan to, basically try to conjure him up in some type of way and, to get a picture of him. And they enlist the help of Rich and Will. And long story short, Rich and Will decide to help him, but they don't really believe the girls. But Will believes that they believe what they saw, but they don't really believe him, but they're along for the ride anyway. So Rich, being rich and thinking that he's the smartest person in the room, hey, let's go to a cemetery. I know somebody. I know that knew somebody that knew somebody of an uncle that knew somebody. And this is how we're going to do it. We're going to conjure up not even going to try to pronounce the word, but we're going to conjure up Pennywise and we're going to get a picture of him. Sounds simple, but when they get to the cemetery, they definitely conjured up a few ghosts of their most recent past that chased them out of there. But all that was worth it because in the end, Will got a picture of Pennywise. And, the episode ends with, it was a clown. So sorry if I spoiled it for you. Maybe I should have gave a warning, but that was a great episode. A world builder is what I would call it. Maybe it wasn't the most exciting or the most, dramatic or whatever the case may be, but definitely a good episode. It deepens the mystery. It gives us more to, quite honestly, just wonder about, because while some of this is material that we know about, some of it's not, and it's new, and we're getting a new take on what the It mythology and the It franchise and Pennywise and the elders, I think that's what they're called. You could ding me in the comments if that's not what they're called. But what do you guys think about that standoff between Dick and Pennywise and the whole "who are you" comment? Pennywise was clearly, probably for one of the first times in his being, was caught off guard by somebody being able to, I don't want to say find him, but find him. I think that made him curious. And I think Dick's warning is a sign of things to come, because as we've seen in some of the trailers, we see a mist coming over the town. And I don't say that lightly, because we've all, well, maybe not all of us, but, just a reference to the movie, The Mist, so maybe something like that is going to be some connective tissue to this story. Who knows? We'll see. But speaking of The Mist, some other Easter eggs that you may or may not have picked up on, some of them Derry's landmarks. We have obviously the carnival, which is a link to the Black Spot fire. That's also referenced in the It novel, and it's referenced in 11/22/63. Obviously, Dick Halloran Shine, which is connected to The Shining. We saw some Castle Rock references, and Trouble in Castle Rock. We have the Shawshank reference, and then obviously we have the Bradley gang assassination, which I think in the book is 1947, if I remember that correctly. But for the TV show, it's 1935, because it has to, go in that 27-year cycle. So 1908. 1935, 1962. But I do believe in the book it is 1947, if I remember correctly. And you can correct me if I'm wrong on that. Please do. I would like to be informed. But episode 3, while it may not be the scariest episode, it might be the deepest episode in the series season so far, because it explores depths of things that we may not have known about. And we have gotten some pretty crazy and fun Pennywise sightings. So with all that being said, thank you for coming by. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for coming to the channel again, and keep coming back for more content. And I will see you next time. Bye.